Look, I just want to blow off a little steam. And if I put it in a video, it eats up all my data for me to upload it and share it with you. So every once in a while, I do get a little out there. And what the hell else have I got to lose? Honestly. Okay, I've got about a week's worth of my medicine, a little less than a week's worth of my medication left. Still no callbacks from Christian charities or anything. Of course, I didn't expect anything with the government shutting down from Medicaid. Now, I see a lot of people who are putting up these posts, and in the posts, they're also putting up comments about liberal white women. Now, here I am, I'm offended by that. Old women in America, we don't care what color we are. That's a you issue. It's not our issue. And taking all old white women and calling them liberals was like every kid in Chicago being called a hippie that had nothing to do with hippies. Thought they were stinky, thought they were trash, thought they were horrible people. So, no. I may be an old woman, but I'm an old American woman. I am not an old white woman. And I have my own view. I don't have to be in the little clique. I like having my own opinion. I'm American. Sue me. But you know what? I don't have anything left to lose. What are they going to do? Threaten my life? I've got only a week's worth of medication keeping me alive. And once that's gone, I have to go through the emergency room. And to do that, I have to have another heart attack, which would make my third in 3 months. And these have been huge heart attacks, not little. I'm on my way out. Even I can read the signs showing which direction to go. So being lumped in as an old white liberal woman is really insulting. I'm not some old white woman. I'm an old American who has worked their whole damn life, and I don't get any kind of Social Security benefits because they told me I was 2 credits shy. And my dead sister is working for her 3rd year, making over $60,000 a year. You want to explain this to me? This American who has worked since I was a kid? I raised 4 kids, plus several of the neighbor kids. I took them in when nobody else would. And I fed them and I housed them for as long as I could. I was hardworking. How dare you tell me I should have to give up everything that I have worked for because you don't want to work for it, but you want to live in a socialist world where people like me, the slave labor of America that is American and is of all colors, believe me, born in Chicago, I lived between Chicago, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Arkansas. My whole life has been around those states. And I could tell you right now, I could always find a job. Today, you guys are screwing yourselves out of your own jobs. You want to either give it to illegal aliens, and there's a reason we call them illegal aliens. A reason that they are not called immigrants. It's an insult to every American immigrant that hears you say an illegal immigrant. When they paid cartel money, they paid money to these cartels, promise to give all their American money that they earn here to the cartels to pay for bringing them here. That's supporting illegal aliens coming across our border. And you want to tell me I should have a heart? Where's yours? Where's your heart? In a week, that medicine runs out. I still don't have a doctor to prescribe my medicines. So I got to fight again for my life and hope that for the third time, the hospital is going to be willing to eat the debt and save my life. I'm an American. I don't qualify for Medicaid. My husband makes, let's put it this way, he's going to make under $25,000 this year. To have a home, we left a place in Texas with higher pay and a lot more jobs. We moved here to Arkansas. My husband and I had enough money from my inheritance that he did not have to work. For the first time, he could actually take time off. He took off almost a whole year. From there, he found out the job market here was crust. Just the crust of the economy that we were used to living in. And you want to tell me that I have no right to be upset because you want to turn my country into a socialist, Islamic warring zone? It's bad enough as it is. I heard a reporter in Portland saying yesterday, a blogger, I don't remember his name, say, this ain't no war zone, but he had not been there until that night, till last night. He had not been there all those months. So by the time he gets there, we've already got the cops and Homeland Security and FBI stepping in Portland to squash an attack on a federal agency because a government has failed to uphold its oath when it accepted our federal dollars. This granny is going to rant. So if you don't, you're sensitive, I apologize if I offend you. But I'm offended at the way my country has treated me. I got so many military in my own family, police officers in my own family, and I see them betraying their families to protect corruption. Like mayors. Mayor Bass, Mayor Brandon from Chicago, my heart breaks for you. I hope every American citizen in Chicago takes to the street, demands Brandon's removal immediately. It's been done in our history. The government actually sends in the National Guard to protect them. Now it's time for us to stop protecting the criminals, us. If you're a cop, you're an FBI agent, you're an ICE agent, why should you protect people who want to hurt you? Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. Next week, I face my final countdown, as I call it. The meds run out. The meds that keep all the water and fluid that my diabetes is not allowing my body to pump out. So it's building up around my heart. And I know what I've got left is maybe that little bit of time. And if it's all I've got left, I should have a right to say my piece to my country. I worked for 5 years for the ACLU as a volunteer. Did not get paid. Lived in Texas. I saw a lot of the illegal aliens that they were bringing through. And the ones that they would dump are the ones I was trying to help. Get them some kind of visa, some kind of legal, because they were either dumped because they were sick, had been starved to death, or just were so drugged out. These poor girls didn't know day from night. And they got dropped off in the neighborhoods I lived in. So you want to talk about how, oh, you got to have a heart. I did. Until I learned the ACLU is trying to change and erase all of our border laws that protect our country, that give American citizens their sovereignty. They want that gone. And if America is stupid enough to do it, then truthfully, I don't know what to tell you. And as far as the trans, they've lost their footing in the media and the power and all that. I don't care. No real American cares. We care when you tell us our gender is not ours, because you want to surgically make your body look like a man or a woman. I don't care. I really don't. And if you're 100% trans and the service is done, come in my bathroom. Because you want to know what? You're stuck on hormones and going through surgery and all kinds of other drugs that make you a hell of a lot weaker than this 61-year-old lady. So you go right ahead and sit on your potty and tinkle. But if I hear you got to stand to pee, I will grab you by the scruff of the neck and the butt of your cheeks and take you out of my bathroom. You better be fully transitioned to claim you are transgender. Now, the rest of you who want to cross-dress, go for it, baby. Are you kidding? The streets were colorful. The streets were bright. People were enjoying just being people until LGBT decided to adopt Q+. Q+ was the death of every homosexual's rights. How's that for a reality? You got states talking about going back to old school rules where homosexuals cannot get married. Homosexuals cannot be a family. Homosexuals cannot be... You know what? That is religion. Take it out to the trash. Because you want to know something about homosexuality? It's as ancient as our history. On both sides. And honestly, good for them. Population control. There are how many unwanted children in the United States alone? How many in foster care? How many could have parents that would not sexually assault them, that would not sexually abuse them? You can't teach homosexuality. I know. And it's not something you convert to. Tried that route. Look, I was young. I had a whole life before all this. You know, I explored my sexuality like any adult is allowed to do. That's because of the freedom in my country. However, your private stuff is your private stuff, and it doesn't belong in a parade in front of young children. No, absolutely no. Why do you feel that you have to oppress a child's right to decide who they are for themselves? That you have to force drugs into their bodies or force them mentally, abuse them to get them to ruin their bodies? What's wrong with them growing in maturity and choosing for themselves? You were allowed to. I don't have any issues beyond that when it comes to homosexuals. I have many in my own family, and I love them as if they were a heterosexual, because their sexual, what they desire is not what I desire, but it doesn't offend me. And it shouldn't. Now, if they want to walk around in my kitchen with a dildo up there, I'm going to have a problem with that. They want to walk through my kitchen in lingerie that is not too revealing if I've got my grandkids around. I'll tell them why. You think I'm ashamed of you? I'm not, and I'm not shocked by you. America's gone through all kinds of transitions over the decades, and it seems like a lot of people have just focused on a little bit. Now, I'm open-minded, but not so open-minded my brain falls out. And I'll be damned if I'm going to go out of this world as an old white lady who's a liberal. I will never be a liberal. Why? Because I believe in equal rights for everyone. And if it's harmful to society, we make laws against it. And our government does not need not one new frickin' law, except laws that will allow the American people to demand removal of mayors, governors, congressmen, and senators of all kinds for violating their oath to the American people. As a kid, my mother drilled that Constitution and Declaration of Independence in my head. And back then, it was the only way you could get from 8th grade into high school. And my other grades were so bad, it was the only hope I had of passing into high school was to learn the Constitution of the time and a few of its amendments and the Declaration of Independence, which is far more important to every American than our Constitution. Our Constitution has been debated over its meaning for hundreds of years, and still, I guess, nobody can figure out that freedom is freedom, wrong is wrong, right is right, yes is yes, no is no, female is female, male is male. These are not hard concepts. And in every species, there are always variety. And if you are so drawn in to some completely ridiculous religion that tells you, oh, this is evil, you know evil when you see it. You're a human being. When you see evil, you get an enragement in your gut. Why? Because we do recognize evil. We do it. It's a perfect, best descriptive word for some of the human behaviors and activities that we have. I was the kind of person, I took it all in. Take it in. Nope, just endure, Ange. You're going to get through another day. Just endure, Ange. You're going to get through another day. And the more that I endured, the more stresses everyone outside of me, myself, put on me. Mom, we gotta have a place to live. We're both alcoholic. We like to fight in the middle of the night and scream like banshees and terrorize our children with this kind of bad behavior. So we need a referee in our life. I did that. For my adult children, I did that. I should not have. Should never have had to. And now I'm here where I am. When I asked my doctors, was my condition, inherited? And they told me part of it, yes. But it shouldn't be this advanced at your age unless you've lived through a lot of stress. I don't know any American that does not live through a lot of stress. So I don't allow that to be part of the excuse for my health. But I did learn one thing. You know how people walk around with these cups all the time, the great big cups? Drink, drink, drink here. Drink, drink, drink. Oh, it's one on your desk, one in your car, one on your table at home, one by your chair, one by your bed. You're going to end up with congestive heart disease because that's what's been causing mine. I have reduced how much fluid I take. Now my body cannot tolerate more than 16 ounces of fluid in a 24-hour period because I've been ingesting so much fluids for years. Why? Because I don't know why. I'm borderline diabetic. I maintained that with my activity, and I maintained that with my diet. Even tried growing my own food. And I hate to tell you, it's hard to do when you're healthy. And I've tried growing here, and I've tried growing in Texas, and semi-desert. And I do pretty good both, but it's still, my body isn't tolerant to the climate anymore because I spend so much time working in it every day. And when I look back at my life and I think of how many times, oh my God, the monotony, same thing over and over and over again. And then here I am in my late 50s, and I was washing dishes in the kitchen. It was only a couple dishes, and my sister came in. She said, "Angel, you don't have to do that. I know you're tired of doing dishes." And it dawned on me, yeah, I'm going to be doing dishes until I stop eating, until I stop using them. Because even now that we're down to just my husband and myself, my counter is full of the dishes from cooking. And now I've gotten where I can't cook. I can't stand up long enough to cook a meal for my husband. You don't know what that means. One of the things I was proud of, my ability to feed my entire family. And it always seemed to fluctuate between 5 to 11 members at one time. And my kids, smart kids, hit up the food banks to bring more food in the house because I didn't get food stamps. I never did. I never applied for them. I was raised, you do not live off the government. The government pays you back in retirement. Yeah, I see how I got paid back. Would anyone here be able to look, saved your life twice, survive this next round? Could you look that doctor in the eyes, knowing you have not paid him a dime? You owe him $6,700 from the first event, and probably around 9,000 because he had to do more work to keep me alive this time. You know how hard it is to look him in the eyes? And sorry, folks, I lost my signal and kind of lost my brother. Life is hard for every human being. And discovering who we are ourselves in this crazy identify myself as something that I'm not. I never tried to be more than I am. I'm not a simple, I don't see any good come out of what I see happening today. Here, Christians are being terrorized by Muslims in New York and in Michigan. Christians who have given more to this country, to its citizens, through food donations, money donations, vouchers, diapers. And now we're allowing them to be attacked. I say gay couples afraid to hold hands. What are you doing to my country? And if you want to bring up the illegal aliens thing, you better know one thing right now. My husband's half Mexican. My niece and 3 of my nephews are Mexican. Don't go there with me. I would do anything to protect them and their father. His parents entered illegally. The young kids managed. He was marrying my sister to get legal. In fact, they were both married in both states. And I'm proud of them. Very proud of them. That's why I get insulted when some illegal alien comes in and says, well, your nieces, and if they don't deserve, I do. Excuse me? They're American. You're not. You don't deserve, they do. And they deserve way before you. And girls, you are, oh my God. Once the veil is ripped down and you don't have the filters and you can't afford to go get the sex doll lips that makes you look like a plastic doll, you don't even look human anymore. And then you get offended when people look. Well, you know what? A lot of people have deformities and people look at it. They can't help it. Now they could apologize if there's any offense because like they're hardcore staring instead of, I know my signal keeps out, guys. I'm really sorry. This is a long one. But I ain't got a whole lot of life left to give to this. You know, when I first got on here, I was like, maybe I could earn a little extra income because I knew my health was going. You know, after Obamacare, to keep me on my husband's insurance was over $1,000 a month. His insurance was paid for, of course, by his boss. But to cover me, he wouldn't be able to cover our kids. So, to make sure he was covered and to make sure the kids were covered, I made him drop me off his insurance. Every time. until our kids got old enough. And when that happened, Obamacare hit. That was it. There was still, finally, he could afford to put me on the insurance, and did for a short time. And now I know I got to scream for some doctor who is probably tired of doing his job for free. Please don't let me die. I'm not even sure why. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm a fighter. I have been my whole life. You can push me around, but when I push back, I'm going to knock you to the floor and you will not get up. I was that kind of person. But it took a lot to get me there. Always takes a lot to get me there. But the minute you cause me pain, if you hurt me, my first response is anger, not the pain. And I think that's why I keep surviving these heart attacks. It's like, instead of letting go and just letting it happen, I plead for help until I can't anymore and I'm just silent. And I think it's the fighter in me that when I feel that physical pain, I fight back so hard against it that I manage to survive. I've got some CAT scans I could show you guys where my main arteries look like thin little veins and they're all crinkled and bent. And that's all that's feeding my body. These are arteries coming off my heart. They managed to actually open up the ones up here without having to do a great big surgery. And I'll tell you what, at first I actually got headaches because my brain was not accustomed to having that much blood flow. I know, that's terrible. But it is what it is. And I can't change what I'm facing, but I'm scared to death. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of what's on the other side. Let's put it that way. I've been there. I'm not afraid of the other side. It's the actual transition. It's so painful that I can't seem to let go and just go where I need to go. That's the only way I can explain it. Because I can tell you exactly when my body is going on complete shutdown. There's this incredible tingling that it just takes over my entire body, and it's hot. Doesn't feel like I'm burning. It just is really hot. And then the tingling gets more intense, but the heat doesn't. It starts to subside. And then I feel like I'm about to float away. That's how it felt the last 2 heart attacks. If my husband, with the first one, hadn't said, "Baby, don't leave me," I would have gone, because the pain was almost gone. The second time, I don't know how the person who was trying to keep me alive and keep me breathing and eyes open, and I don't know how she did it. It was almost like I heard her whisper in my ear, but I could see her over my face. "Angelique." It's not yet. Come on, come back. Can you imagine that sweet young lady's voice? Someone I didn't know. And she got me to come back. So I did. And now I'm sitting here, and the anxiety is sometimes overwhelming. I know this is probably the longest video I've ever made. No, it's actually not. I want my fellow human beings to start treating each other better. And I know that it's an old saying and that our children are the future. But they are, because look what happens. We age, we're supposed to. And we're supposed to teach our children not to hate each other because of their skin color, their religion, or anything else. There's no reason. I see glimpses, little sparks, some of the little shorts I come across. And I know some of them are staged. I don't watch many of them because of that. But where I actually see people be kind to each other. My youngest boy, he's got a heart of gold. He really does. And he went through his young spells when he was younger, but he's kind of, hey, I got these great kids. I love my wife. Why am I messing up my life? And so he's been struggling to turn it around. And he never gives up. And he'll talk to me about what's happening, Mom, yeah, I got the kidney stones again. And so, but I don't have, the $16 I need. But I'll get it. And I always ask him, are you sure you can get it, honey? Because I'll help you. You know I will. And Mom, you can't afford you right now. How are you going to help me? I said, just like every time you help an old man broke down on the side of the road, or the families you have picked up walking along the highway because their car ran out of gas. That's how you pay me back. Pay it forward. I don't care if it is an old corny way to look at things. Every time a person is kind to you, so you learn how to be. Look, I come from a brutal, broken family. There is no doubt. There was rarely silence in our home. My parents fought tooth and nail, physically and verbally, with each other every day. Every day. I looked forward to the days when they were not talking to each other. The only problem with those days was if you got caught in the middle of a glare, you were liable to get your own butt took. And that came from both parents, Mom and Dad. I ain't going to say either one was better than the other. My parents knew about as much about parenting as I did when I first started. Zilch. You don't know how to bring a human into this world and then teach it what it takes to be a human being. Especially when the biggest predator is your own kind. The greatest predator of humanity is ourselves. And we know it. But we can't seem to stop it. You push me too far, and I'm going to lose my cool. And that's with anybody. Anybody. But why is it when we see that person that we say, oh, I love you so much, I'll always be there for you. But when we see we are pushing those buttons, instead of backing off, to ease up on them the stress they're under, we dig in. What is that? Why do we got to be like that? Now, my husband has spent 30 years listening to these kind of questions, and he has never had an answer. No, I'm an 11th generation American. 11th generation American. We just don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, purple, or other. We don't love you for your color. We don't care about you for your color or where you come from. Americans care about what you're doing here to Americans, to help Americans. And when you help Americans, what do Americans do? They help y'all. Now, I am not ever going to be, I lived through the hippies. I'm never going to be okay with sex in parks where children play, and drugs in those parks, and guns in those parks. I'm never going to be okay with that. And nobody in society should be. I should not be afraid to take my child to a park because some guy in apartment 107 on Ashland, or one of those, it's been years, is watching my child through the window, plotting to kidnap my kid. And you can't say it doesn't happen. It was happening in my era. When I was a kid in Chicago, I lived on Erie Street, one of the worst in the neighborhoods of the 1960s and 70s. Yeah. I lived on the south side of Chicago. I lived on the north side of Chicago. And then I moved out to the suburbs with my parents. Then I left as an adult. And I went exploring. I'd been to Arkansas, Missouri a few times because of family. But 17, big-headed, I can handle life, I can do whatever I want to do. I'm going to go find my real daddy because I have an adopted father. I had 3 fathers in my whole life, not one. All three played a big role in my life. So women, whatever man you are hooking up with, your family has to deal with him too. I was born in Chicago, lived in Texas for over 30 years, and then now here in Arkansas. Where are you from? Guys, I'm sorry. I got on here just so I could vent. I mean, I am stuck at home, and now my right leg is giving up. The arteries are shutting down. So I can barely walk, which means, I don't have a whole lot to do but watch YouTube. And the algorithm is so stuck on this politician's doing this to this politician. I just, it's insane. It's crazy. I mean, they talk about this like it's new news. Where were they in the 70s and the early 80s when the mafias, not just the Italian mafia, the Mexican mafia, the Italian mafia, and the Cuban mafia, we're all going to war in Chicago. And they act like this is new. We saw twice as many deaths back then as y'all are seeing now. What you're seeing now are paid rioters, and it should be outlawed. If you're an insurrectionist, you don't belong in my country. Is my microphone not working? I'm here so that I can just take all this stuff I've got inside of me before I die and let it out. Clean, just face it out. And trying to upload anything onto YouTube for a channel, like I have a small channel, it takes hours to just put up a few minutes. It takes hours and a ton of data. So I found out that if I go live, it's a lot less data. I'm American. Sometimes I talk slow, sometimes I talk fast. I can't help that. It's just the way Americans talk. I mean, I guess when we're not upset, we're pretty laid back and can talk slower. But I was talking about things that I've been observing in my own country. And I figured this is my last chance really at free speech, especially since I'm watching Islam invade my country on the East Coast. Tried it in Texas, but Texas stopped it for now. Yeah, just rambling on. But I don't want to be called a liberal because I'm an old white woman. And I'm not. I'm an old American woman. And I've worked my whole life to take care of my family. No, I speak very well English. I'm born and raised in the United States. Ada? My signal may be bad. I don't know. Well, English, American English changes constantly. So you kind of have to keep up with the kids if you want to understand English. It can get complicated. But you can't what? You seem to type English fairly well. I'm learning how to die. That's what I'm learning. I'm through with my life. I've lived it as far as I can take it. And I'm learning how to die. What are you learning? Oh, I can't speak any other language than English. And it's American English, not British. Although I love their accents. But I think I've done enough unloading of everything in my head. Being an American is not easy. You learn to accept a lot from people because you're trying to respect their rights and freedoms as much as you want yours respected. And if Americans can get back to doing that with each other, this country's got more than a better chance of survival. We just got to push back the foreign influence and go back to being Americans. And Americans are crazy. Americans are hardworking. Americans are only crazy because of stress. Main killer of Americans, stress. But it's Persian. Well, yeah, I could see it being Persian coming from Iran. Isn't that where you said you come from? Okay, I love it. America, I love it. Well, I'm going to go. It's actually I've been on here a long time, and I've got to take my medications, go curl up with my dog, wait for my husband to come home. You know, I think every American wants to be heard, not just their complaints. They want to be heard about everything in their lives. And not everything in their lives complaint is a complaint. My husband's in his 50s, and he has been working since he was about 15. Now, I'm older than my husband, if you have not guessed. I'm about 11 years older than my husband. I have never been to Iran. I understand that they're not the fondest of Americans. I'm sorry our countries have been so bad to each other. I have met many immigrant Americans from Iran. Many of them are very good people. 61. I just turned 61 last month. Got out of the hospital on my birthday. It shows there's 2 people in here. But anyway, like I said, I just really needed to get stuff out of my head. I got a lot on my plate that I'm facing. And sometimes speaking it out loud helps you get through it. Because just maybe, someone will be listening. It's very nice to meet you too, Ada. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. But you never know. My whole life, I have a lot of Christians in my family. And, it's hard for me to make any kind of judgment call about religions, that one is better than the other. But I can tell you that some religions should have been left in the dirt. And it's because it's done more harm than it's ever done good, and it never brought people to the light. And let me tell you something, the light they talk about, you watch all those historical documentaries or whatever, where they're saying, yeah, the person said that they saw light. That part is very true. Yeah, you will. But depending on what you believe, once you get into the light, I always thought, because I was raised Christian, Southern Baptist, that I was for sure going to burn in hell no matter what I did. So, fire and brimstone thing, I don't buy it. I see earth cycles and people get in the way. I see that humanity can develop enough technology to actually affect the weather on Earth and do more harm than the planet intends itself to do. But, that's the rise and fall of mankind. We will always be fighting over it. We always have been. And that's the reality of life. We've always been fighting each other, killing each other. We need this resource. We gotta have this resource. We need this. We need that. It's never grounds to kill anybody. Spent my whole life sharing. When I would make my dinner plate, my husband and I were talking about this the other day, I would put extra food on my plate. I would almost double the portions on my plate. And, of course, I never ate it all. My goodness, that would be quite a bit of food. But when my kids were little, right up till they were grown, they'd probably still reach in and steal a French fry. I'm like, But when I filled my plate, it wasn't ever just for me. Because I knew when my kids were done eating, they were going to want some of Mom's. And for some reason, what Mom's eating, even if it's the exact same thing as, if you're 15 years old, what are you doing on here? This isn't for kids. Because I definitely talk about adult stuff. Aren't you? Well, I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say it's my place. Anyway, after my kids were done eating, they always came to Mom's plate for more. And since our food, when I dealt out meals, it was portioned to everybody getting the same amount. Smaller kids got less, of course. They don't need as much, and they sure burn it faster. So, but the kids always ate off my plate. And, of course, so did our dogs. I never made a big plate for myself. I mean, I would walk away from, the kitchen with this mound of food, and I would eat. No doubt, I would definitely eat. But my children and my dog, wow, I just realized that. Wow. And I still do it. Well, I don't make myself the big portions anymore. You know, when you start to get really sick, hi, uh, the world takes a different view because you're forced to step back. You're not in the moment. And when you step back and you take a look at everything, your whole life, well, first you go through the guilty phase. You begin to recognize all of the things you've actually done wrong, even if you didn't realize it at the time. It is, I'm having trouble seeing my little clock there. Well, it's not little, but I'm going blind, so it looks like about 20 minutes to 9 p.m. Well, Ada, I'm actually a little lightheaded from all the talking I've been doing, and I did get my rant out. I just had to get that stuff off my chest. And I have nowhere else to put it. And if there's anybody out there that's going through a hard time right now, my heart is with you. And my compassion. Just Americans, we got to get back to reality. You don't judge a book by its cover. Otherwise, you can miss out on a really good read. You don't pick a fight with your neighbor, especially over the smallest things. It just goes to show how insecure you are about what you have and how afraid you are that somebody else is going to try to take it away and change it. That's what that reveals. So, and for all you young people out there, so filled with rage against everything, and in most cases you have a good reason to be angry, but you're picking the wrong battles. With illegal aliens, you are fighting against your own freedom if you're an American. And you have not understood that concept yet. There is a reason why Americans work their bodies to the breaking point and support this lunacy we call a government. It's because there is still hope. Still hope that a human society can come out of this madness that treats every human being like a human being. And then there's no need for a government at all. Then there's no need for soldiers. We need to find a way to help the dying die with dignity and self-respect, not just shove them off in a corner and wait for it to be over. My children are struggling with this. This is very hard for them. And believe me, I was on their end a few years ago with my own mother. So I understand. And I can absolutely relate. And all of my children, I'm going to tell you, everybody says, oh, you got to be, one of those little old liberal women. No. All of my children have been raised around bikers. They've been raised around, well, the lowest, the bottom of the community because I lived in their neighborhoods. And that started happening to me after Reagan because I was in the bottom tier. Our jobs kept getting least value and least value. And then they started filling them with illegal aliens. And then Obama came in and got rid of a bunch of them. And then we started it all over again. So it's a repetitive cycle. And if you can't see it for what it is, get your eyes focused. Because closing them is not helping you. You can turn this around. Our country can. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like Trump. Until I looked into Kamala Harris, I was a Democrat. Born in Chicago, remember? I was absolutely a Democrat. And I did vote for Obama. Biggest waste of a vote I ever gave. So, I'm being as real with people as I can because I think people want real. They don't like it always. But if you're standing out in the weather tonight, wearing your black hoodie, with your black face mask, and you're just a hood rat. You're a terrorist, and I will always see you that way. That's how you would have been seen in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so forth. Get the picture? You're not new. And after I watched you groups tear up Chicago back in the 70s and 80s, we were better off sometimes when it was just the mob in our hair. I'm not ashamed to be an American because an American is always changing. They're always learning. We actually when we don't have all the drugs in us, we put AI to shame. That's why they haven't used it yet to just get rid of us. I mean, the reality of it is that human beings have an ingenuity and a genuine ability to create of their own ability, not just mimic. And yeah, AI is getting there. And when it does, you think it's having emotions now. Ah, yeah. Well, guys, I know I'm trying to... I guess I'm trying to talk myself to sleep. It's been a rough day after a really rough night. And, well, it is what it is. Yeah. American Granny saying good night.